Hey everyone, this is Bales. I'm looking at MLB player models on FantasyLabs and going to create a tutorial to show you how to use this, how to get the most out of the data and the tools, and how I use it to create MLB lineups. So it's blank right now just because there are no games. I'm creating this right before the season. You can actually go back to a past date, so we'll go back to a slate last season in September. And we are now looking at September 3rd. When you come to player models for the first time, you're actually going to be prompted to select the default model. So there's pro models here that I and other players, CSURAM88, have created. And you can just click on a model. So this would be a copy of my model. And so these are the sliders that I had last year. I'll update these for this year, to change the date again. And basically the idea behind this is to take all these stats we have, weight them according to what you think is important, and then rate players based off of that. And the coolest part about it is that we back test everything for you, so you know if you're making a mistake or not. So we have all of these different sliders. We have more than we did in 2015 because we have a bunch of advanced stats, which I'll talk about in a bit, but some really cool batted ball and pitch velocity data. So this is my default model. You can change this how you'd like. So maybe you don't care, maybe you're a tournament player, don't care as much about lineup order, move that down, care more about Vegas and pure upside. You can re-rate that. You have 100 points to spend, re-rate that, update, and the model will update. So it went up. This has actually created a better model. So we were at 1.18 plus minus, now we're at 1.25. And this plus minus stat is the points above expectation of the top players in your model. So if you had used this model every day last year, the top 5% of players in that model would have scored 1.25 points above what you'd expect based on their cost. So those expected points are derived from historic pricing and performance data. So we know that at $4,300, Cargo should score X points. It might be 8 points, let's say, on DraftKings. If he scores 10 points in a game, that would be a plus minus of 2. So on average, we have 1.25 points per batter above expected from this model. So you can play with all these different sliders. Some of them are going to be more important than others. Vegas, obviously, very important. Weather is very important in MLB. Lineup order, very important. We have WOBA and ISO splits, the batted ball data, opposing pitcher, whip and strikeout. For pitchers, we have different sliders, obviously. We have K potential. Vegas, obviously, very big for pitchers. The opposing team's WOBA, and even something like that, we actually adjust as lineups come in. So we're looking at, if an unexpected lineup comes in that has a bunch of really bad hitters, a particular team is sitting their studs, maybe on a Sunday, we'll adjust for that, and that opposing team WOBA changes, and when that goes down, the pitcher score in that category will go up, and if you weight that slider very highly, his rating will go up a bunch. So everything gets adjusted in real time. If there's a really big bet on one side on a particular team, and the Vegas lines change, and then the implied runs change, and you are weighting Vegas very heavily, that will update in real time, almost automatically. So it's a pretty powerful tool, I think, and just the fact that you can back test it is what makes it so unique. I also think all of the data that we have, just being able to visualize it, is really cool. So just quickly run through this. We have the split section, so we're looking at WOBA splits. So Cargo has a 412 WOBA against righties. He was facing a righty in this particular game, and he had a 323 ISO, which is really, really high, and that's a running 12-month total. So we're looking at Cargo's ISO against righties over the prior 12 months, and he absolutely demolished them. We have some other basic stats: home runs, strikeouts per game, stolen bases per game, pro trends, which come from the trends section. These are trends that I created. Cargo in this game, he's very obviously a quality value, underpriced, but he has 17 pro trends. These are situations that have historically led to value. So he had the high ISO that I just talked about, the weather rating above the 70th percentile, high Vegas score. You can click on it to get more details. And if you click trend details, it'll take you to that trend. We have the ump, and then how many points above or below expected particular umps have allowed for batters. So Doug Eddings, a notorious pitcher's ump, has cost batters 0.3 points on average. Batters overall have scored 0.3 points fewer than you'd expect when Eddings is there. Bargain rating is a comparison of site salaries. Cargo just significantly cheaper on DraftKings than FanDuel. We have park factor, 100 obviously, they're playing at Coors, and our park factor stats are actually broken down by handedness. So Coors is going to be the best for both lefties and righties, but different parks play differently for certain types of hitters, so we adjust for that. Then we have all the Vegas data, so implied runs, the opponent's implied runs, the change in implied runs. So there was a change of 0.5 runs. That means that the Rockies' implied run total increased half a run, which is humongous. You can click, we can actually look at that. You can see the change over time. You can see that they opened at 5.2 implied runs, and because of betting percentages, they actually went up to 5.7. That's particularly interesting just because they didn't get very many. They only got 40% of bets. That means that a lot of sharp guys were on the Rockies in this particular game. Might actually be interesting to see if they won this game or not. I'll have to check that out. Because all of the stats here suggest that they were going to probably do pretty well against the Giants. So we have all of that, the money line, betting percentages, all of the weather data, temperature, weather rating, which is a metric that I created that looks at things like altitude, temperature, wind direction and speed, precipitation, humidity, things like that. Then we have our advanced stats. This is new. So we have advanced stats over the past 15 days and advanced stats over the past year, which again is a 12-month running total. The stats we have are batted ball distance. So you can see that over the past 15 days, Cargo was hitting, his average hit was going 246 feet, which is really far, and suggested that he was hitting the ball really well. You can also see his exit velocity was 94 miles per hour on average, which is 2 miles per hour higher than his exit velocity over the past year. And you can see that exit velocity differential of 2 is good. Distance differential, he was hitting the ball 28 feet farther on average than he did for the entire year, which suggested that he was hitting the ball well, as does the hard hit percentage, 46% compared to 35% for the year. So some really cool data for pitchers. We have velocity, how fast they're throwing the ball, which has been predictive, and looking at changes over time in velocity is really valuable. And then we have all of this batted ball profile data, fly balls, ground ball, line drive percentage, and some other really cool stuff, ground balls per fly ball, and other cool data for pitchers. And then all of our fantasy-specific stats as well, consistency, upside. Consistency is how often a player reaches his expectation. And over the course of a year, this is really valuable to see just how consistent players are. So Cargo has reached his expectation based on his salary 38% of the time, which is actually slightly below average for a batter, whereas Lorenzo Cain, over the past year, as of this date, reached it 48% of the time, which is very, very high. So you can click on Lorenzo Cain's player card to see those stats a little bit more. There's his consistency compared to the league average. So another new feature that we have in Miles is this filter. So you can filter by team. So you can select none, and it'll remove them from the view. Select all. The way that I like to use this and plan to use it is to just go through each team to help visualize value and where you have players rated. So click on the White Sox or the Twins, and those players will show up. So here we're looking at Twins bats, Braves, Nationals. I'm not sure why those aren't showing up. Pirates. And so you can look at where you have those players rated to help get a sense of which teams you might want to stack in a given slate. Also new this year, updates, news, player news, that will be in this section. So we have these 3 tabs: build, which is where you create and backtest the model; updates, where all the player news and lineups come in, so you don't need to go anywhere. You'll get all of that news, and when lineups confirmed, it'll update automatically right there, and your models will update as well. And then lineups. This is where you build your lineups. You can either optimize a single lineup based off of your model, which will give you the best mathematical lineup, just in terms of what's optimal based on your model. You can see that this lineup actually scored 144.3 points, which is a lot. That would have won almost every cash game. You can click save. That'll save your lineup, and it'll go to the My Lineups page where you can automatically upload to DraftKings or FanDuel. And then you can also generate multiple lineups. So I'm going to create a video showing you how to use the lineup builder a bit more, but this is new. All different filters that you can use. You can add filters. You can look for certain things that are important to you. You can also stack right there, so you can select the team that you'd like, Pirates, and then choose the number of players that you'd like in lineups, and then generate lineups. So just like that, we can generate 10 lineups that are all 5-man Pirate stacks. So I'll go over how to use that in a separate video because I think that there's a lot that goes into it. But this is the basis behind player models. This is the tool that people use day to day. Really powerful. You're probably definitely not going to find anything else like this out there, and certainly nothing that allows you to actually test what's working and immediately be able to create really, really accurate player models.